All we know is the president's coming back early. He's got a nice plane. He can sleep up front, so he'll be able to get a nice rest and then be here in Washington on Thursday. He gets in around midday. That's when the Senate is certain to be back. Don't know if the House is going to be back. They've been told they're going to have to work. And then, as Richard was saying, yes, you can get a deal, but it's going to be a small deal. It's going to be a short-term deal. So if all the forces do align together, come everything, and everyone gets on the same page, you can get some sort of short-term deal. But the question still is, will it pass the House? It has anything that can be perceived as a tax increase. But then we still have the same problems in mid-January. And then, guys, the debt ceiling mid-February.
Yeah,
House Republicans are not going to budge on that. That's going to be, in a way, more crisis-like and crucial, just because credit agents will be watching. Full faith of credit of the United States is on. We're not just talking about like a little mini recession there. There we're talking about the full faith and credit of the United States government.
Hans, is Richard here. Are you thinking this small deal is on the sequester side, the spending cuts, or on the revenue and the tax side? Which do you think is more likely to come out of these deliberations?
It seems to me that if you're going to do a small deal and have, say, extend all the Bush-era tax cuts for everyone making less than, say, $500,000 or $700,000, it seems to me that they would likely McConnell would likely punt on the sequester, because it's the sequester, this $100 billion in cuts that hits January 1. That's really what all the economists are saying is going to be the biggest hit to GDP, the biggest sort of multiplier effect. So it seems to me if they're doing a short-term deal to avoid a recession, they'd address both the taxes just for a certain income level and the sequester. But that could be a hope, not actually real reporting, Richard, because no one's talking. At least they're not talking to me, and it's been pretty quiet for the last 36 hours.
Hans, listen to this quote from longtime budget analyst, frequent guest on Bloomberg Surveillance, Stan Collender, who's now at Corvus Communications. At this point, there's 0% chance of a big deal. Maybe a 10% chance of a small deal January 1st. Alex, it seems like the longer we get, 6 days left, the smaller the deal gets.
Smaller the deal gets. And the question is, Hans, who is really in charge here? Does it come down to Senator Mitch McConnell now? Is he the one who has to come forward?
Yeah, there are two basically people in charge in terms of two different hurdles. One, you got to get through the Senate, and they're McConnell and Reid, who have a very good working relationship. We shouldn't diminish that. They've got to decide on a number on who gets spared the tax increase. They decide on an income level, and then they take that deal and present it to Boehner. Now, the question for Boehner remains is, will he put something forward that doesn't get a majority of Republicans? Because you could have a soft Senate-like deal that could get a majority of Democratic support in the House, but if Boehner doesn't bring it forward because maybe, say, only 40% of his caucus will vote for it, then Boehner can still say no. He can still smother any sort of deal that comes out of the Senate.
Hans, is the bottom line that the likelihood of you and everybody else on Congress working New Year's Eve just gone up?
Look, well, I don't know what 10% probability is from Stan Collender. Maybe it's 11, maybe it's 12. I would say we're close to 98% probability.